Hello, everyone, and welcome to another video, one of our concluding videos of the 76th edition of the Vuelta a España. As always, I'm delighted to be joined by Mr. Critical himself, Ewan, and today we're going to look at 7 things we learned from this Vuelta a España. And Ewan, what is the first thing we've learned from the Vuelta?
Well, the first thing we are going to be discussing about this Vuelta a España is that Jack Haig has broken through, and we now know that he can perform a solid general classification performance. Yes, the Australian from Bahrain, victorious, maybe didn't go into this Grand Tour as the designated leader or the rider with the most hype. However, Jack Haig got a solid third place performance after what was a defensive ride throughout the 3 weeks, but certainly after what was a blistering team effort from Bahrain on stage 20. We now know that this Australian is really someone to look out for the years to come, especially given the past couple of years at Mitchelton Scott, now known as Bike Exchange, which didn't quite go to plan for Jack Haig. We had a lot of promise for him after a very solid Tour de l'Avenir. He was picked up very early by the Australian team, never quite translated that performance into headline Grand Tour results, but now the Australian is back in the big money.
Yeah, I mean, to put in perspective, his highest position in GC for any Grand Tour before this was 17th, and then now becoming the first Australian since Cadel Evans in 2009 to finish on the Vuelta a España podium. So great success from him. But anyways, our second thing that we learned was that the most famous bike rider from Bornholm in Denmark, Magnus Cort Nielsen, really, took it up another notch, 3 stage wins, and looked like he was going to take that last time trial as well before Primoz Roglic unfortunately eclipsed him just a bit. But Ewan, Magnus Cort Nielsen is largely becoming one of the best all-rounders in the peloton.
Well, Magnus Cort's found a name for himself at La Vuelta a España. It's where he won his first Grand Tour stage back in 2016, showed a really good performance there, working for Esteban Chaves in the mountains. In 2018, at the Tour de France, he translated his form there into a stage win into Carcassonne. Last year, he took a stage win, and this year he took 3 very different stages. The first one at the Montaña de la Cullera was a hilltop finish, breakaway battle almost. And then he took 2 sprint stages quite convincingly against some other big hitting names. So Magnus Cort, definitely someone that we need to look out for as a stage hunter in the years to come. Do I think he's ever going to become a GC rider? No, I don't think we need to open Pandora's box of can Mathieu van der Poel, can Wout van Aert and Tom Pidcock become GC contenders? Because we have this discussion every time there's a Grand Tour. And Magnus Cort is slightly in that category. I feel like he might be the lesser in terms of reputation, but he certainly proved himself here and one of the best riders of this Vuelta a España, and he deserved that combativity prize that he received on the final podium in Santiago de Compostela.
So do you think he'll ever go for a points classification in a Grand Tour?
He came quite close this time. There was some points where he was sitting in second quite comfortably, and I think Magnus Cort maybe could try to. Do I think he's going to beat Caleb Ewan in a flat sprint? No, I don't. But certainly in terms of a Sagan type, he's up there. But I think Magnus Cort is doing Magnus Cort things very, very well, snagging stage victories across the board, sort of under the radar when we least expect it.
So our third point, of course, is Primoz Roglic has well truly shown that he is the king of Spain, winning his 3rd Vuelta a España in a row. He's been only to the Vuelta 3 times before and becomes the 3rd rider in history to win it. Win it 3 times in a row. Last time we had Roberto Heras, and before that we had Tony Rominger, the Swiss rider. But Ewan, it seems like he can't do anything wrong. He also won the Tour of the Basque Country this year in Spain.
Yep, it's hard for Primoz Roglic really to go wrong in Spain. It seems like every time he comes here, he gets a good result, even in the Basque Country, for example, where he's taken that race on multiple occasions. So Primoz is certainly one of the best riders of this generation. If it's not Pogacar, then Roglic is up there. And this, I would say, is his most convincing Vuelta a España win to date. He bookended it with stage wins, and he almost wore the red jersey from start to end, bar, of course, the breakaway attempts from Odd-Christian Eiking, Kennedy Sond, and so forth. So I think this will go down as Roglic's crowning moment in his career, potentially.
How much will you put this win down to his teammates being very strong? We saw they faltered somewhat, we thought, but do you think Primoz Roglic was just the strongest rider, or is it because he had a very strong team, or a combination of the two?
I think Primoz maybe relied on his team the least out of all 3 of his Vuelta a España victories. Well, in terms of the team performance at all three of them, yes, Sepkus was relied on. Stefan Kruijswijk did a great job this year alongside Sam Omen. And last year we saw the rise of Jonas Vingegaard at the Vuelta. But Roglic did it all himself. He was the one who struck out on the Lagos de Covadonga stage. He rode the time trial single-handedly. Yes, having Kuss up there in the mountain stages was useful, but you would say that Movistar and Ineos were just as strong as Jumbo-Visma in the mountains. So I would say Roglic really was the strongest rider, and you can't deny that to any extent.
So keeping on the Roglic theme, we saw Ineos Grenadiers. They did their best effort on some of the stages to try and break Roglic. They've not quite succeeded breaking Pogo Rog since 2018, when, of course, they finished ahead of Roglic. But you wouldn't say Roglic is the same rider then as he is now. And Ewan, we saw Egan Bernal hit out very far on one of his stages and really tried to break Roglic, but in the end, he broke himself. And do you think Ineos Grenadiers need to go back to the drawing board? They have a lot of strong riders in their roster, not just in the Vuelta España's team, and also many of the stars of the future as well. And how do you think they're going to solve this? And did they, for you, do a good attempt at this year's Vuelta España?
Well, they tried, especially in that final week. They really tried to split things up, but they lost in terms of manpower. Carapaz, Von Barle, and so forth pulled out, and the team relied on Pavel Sivakov and Adam Yates and Egan Bernal really within those final days, even if they did try to do something special by attacking long range. I think Ineos Grenadiers just need to figure out how to beat Pog and Rog, but in terms of how they do that, we're not necessarily sure right now, because Pog and Rog are two phenomena right now in the sport. Egan Bernal probably needs to improve in his time trial, and that's what the team need to do in order to make himself a little bit more all-rounded as a Grand Tour contender, because at this Vuelta España, we didn't see the best in Egan Bernal's time trial ability. Neither at the Giro was he really at super top form. And to beat Pog and Rog, you have to be up there in the time trial, because otherwise they will gain a minute or two on those battles against the clock. Nevertheless, Ineos Grenadiers said at the start of the year that they were going to change their tactics and ride more aggressively, but I'm yet to really see this unfold in 2021, especially at these Grand Tours.
Do you think we have the same Egan Bernal at the Giro d'Italia as we did the Vuelta España? He did have a certain virus in between then, and maybe he was celebrating that Giro d'Italia victory a bit too much, but he looked phenomenally strong at the Giro, and you would have thought if you had a Egan Bernal on top form with a very strong Ineos Grenadiers team, that could potentially have done something towards Primoz Roglic.
Yeah, potentially. Egan Bernal, of course, did have a certain virus after the Giro d'Italia. It did affect his health and so forth. He came into this Vuelta España 2 kilograms over his desired weight that he was at the Giro d'Italia. In addition, he had a crash at the Vuelta a Burgos, which did not really help his progression into this race. He wasn't even sure if he would be on the start list in Burgos, but there we go. Egan Bernal, I think, will just have to recover and try to train in the winter, but don't overtrain like he did in the COVID break in 2020, because I think that really hampered his ability there. So if Egan Bernal just trains conservatively, sheds that weight that he needs to shed, and sort of work on his respiration and so forth, and I'm sure he could be up there again.
So our fifth point that we learned, Movistar, they always love to have a bit of drama in a Grand Tour. And of course, they came in with this 3 or 4-pronged attack. Miguel Angel Lopez, Valverde, and Enric Mas. Of course, Enric Mas, he managed to finish second place, was very well done. Many people thought he was a bit boring, and that he should have been a more aggressive rider. But Miguel Angel Lopez, we also saw this very extraordinary, rage quit almost on stage 20 after he tried to catch the group after he missed the vital GC split and chased on his own for 30 kilometers, and was also very angry at the team manager for shouting at him. And Ewan, what did you make of Movistar this year's Vuelta España? Season 3 is definitely going to be very interesting.
Well, the Netflix series has not been commissioned yet, I don't think, for this next series, but maybe after this Vuelta España it might be, because it was quite the Vuelta España for them. I think the whole dynamic anyway, we saw that Rojas in particular wasn't happy with Superman being on the squad in the first place last year. And we saw that whole saga play out on the road of Spain. Some people would say that Miguel Angel Lopez was the stronger of the two at points, and he was held back by Enric Mas, particularly in that final week building up to stage 20's explosion. But it's always interesting with Movistar. They really play the tactical game in quite a unique way. But in terms of Superman's surprise departure from the race, well, I think we're still waiting a little bit more news. He signed on for 2 more years for Movistar, but one of the Movistar managers also said that they would force him to stay if he didn't want to. So we're going to have to wait and see, because there's many rumors circling about around family drama, about contract drama, and so forth. But the only person who really knows will be Superman Lopez himself.
So one rider who stayed out of drama for the most part, well, actually all of it, Gino Madère, kind of floated into the top 5 and then even managed to take the white jersey away from Egan Bernal that many people, ourselves included, thought was just going to be Egan Bernal's by default. Gino Madère, of course, is best known this season for his Paris-Nice victory that never was, courtesy of Primoz Roglic. And also, he took 2 stage wins in the Tour de l'Avenir that year, where Tadej Pogačar famously won it, but didn't take any stages, which was very uncharacteristic by him. So, Ewan, how have you felt? You've already praised Bahrain Victorious already in this video. They really have been the team, or one of the teams, of this year's Vuelta España, and I'm sure we'll see that in our ranking video as well. But Ewan, what do you think of Gino Madère?
Well, this is the second time in this video that we mention a very, very good transfer to Bahrain Victorious, which went almost under the radar. Gino Madère last year rode for NTT, now known as Quebecer Next, Quebecer whatever, following some contract drama there. But yeah, Gino Madère, we knew him from Paris-Nice, and he came into the Giro d'Italia, won a stage, pulled out, but he was always in our conscience there, and he rode this race brilliantly from start to end. A white jersey against the odds. Who would have thought that Gino Madère would get it instead of Egan Bernal? And it was really that performance on stage 20, I think, that characterized his will and his bravery to ride. And you have to really keep that name in mind. Gino Madère, even off the bike, he was donating to wildlife charities for on every single stage based on his ranking. So it's wonderful to see. And I think Gino is going to be he's going to be here to stay, and definitely Bahrain will have to field him out to some other races next year.
So anyways, our final point that we also learned, which is kind of a heartwarming one, is that Fabio Jakobsen came back to winning ways after his very tragic Tour of Poland crash in 2020 with Dylan Groenewegen. But Jørgen, wasn't this an absolutely amazing story, seeing the Dutch sprinter come back to Grand Tours on a winning form, and on top of that, even winning the points classification for the first time that we can recall for Quickstep?
Yeah, I think exactly that. It's 10 years since the last time a Dutch person won the green jersey at La Vuelta a España. And I think this really proves that Fabio Jakobsen's back in the sport. We can stop saying that he's on a comeback. He's on a comeback, because now he is back. And for someone who was really on the verge of becoming one of the best sprinters of our generation, we can now say that he's back at that level. For the early stages, he was still battling out with Philipsen, but in that second and third week, Jakobsen seemed to be streets ahead, and he's really deserves that green jersey. And he's the first sprinter in a while to seal off that green jersey quite convincingly.
So that's basically it. Our 7 points that we've learned from this year's Vuelta a España. And of course, what a delightful win it was for Primoz Roglic. Great green jersey win for Fabio Jakobsen as well. And of course, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button if you've liked this video. And of course, thank you for watching, and have a nice day.